This podcast is a quest for well-being, a quest for a meaningful life through the exploration of fundamental truth. Enlightening ideas, insights on physical, mental, and spiritual health. The inspiration is love. The aspiration is to awaken new ways of thinking that can lead us to a new way of being well. Welcome to Body, Mind, and Soul Healing Conversations.
One's life consists of many cycles and journeys, each of which may be accompanied by some suffering, physical, psychological, or spiritual. Each cycle will likely involve the lives of many others as well, like loved ones who are essential and influential in our own life. Valeria interviews Kyomi O'Connor, the author of A Sky of Infinite Blue, a Japanese immigrant's search for home and self. Kyomi O'Connor is the author of the forthcoming memoir, A Sky of Infinite Blue, a Japanese immigrant's search for home and self, published in September 2022. In actively working to address her past emotional abuse, she moved to the States in 1990 to work as a researcher. There she met her husband-to-be, Patrick, an English researcher with Irish heritage. Her life journey led to a career change when the couple moved to San Diego for his job, and when together they entered into Buddhist practice. As Patrick became ill in 2013, Kyomi took care of him for 3 years until his death. Writing her memoir has been part of her journey to find the wholeness of herself. Meet Kyomi at KyomiO'Connor.com. Here's the interview with Kyomi O'Connor.
In your own words, who is Kyomi O'Connor?
Kyomi is the student of life. I have gone through many, many challenges and could be tragedies, but through the adversities, I learned. So I am forever being student of life and learner.
Why do you feel we go through all these challenges, experiences in the human body? What makes sense to you when it comes to answering that question?
We all go through our own experience in our lives, and everybody has a different experiences. But ultimately, I believe we are all interconnected, and then we are here to help each other. So what I experienced is not just only for myself, but also to help other people to get through their own experience in a way they've been loved, they've been helped, they've been together.
What is the meaning of grief and death to you at this time, Kyomi?
Death is one of the inevitable event in our life. So of course, if we love somebody's death may affect as a grieving experience. Right. That's also subsequently inevitable. Right. But through that experience, I believe we are becoming more human.
That's almost like the process of becoming more human. That's an interesting message to hear. And I love that. It's interesting because I often think about the spiritual and the human experience being one and the same, that there's no separation between them. So when it comes to spirituality, how do you define spirituality and how did you discover Buddhism?
I think spirituality to me, in my book, I described very fast my liberating experience right after my meditative sitting, the event. But I believe we are, as soon as we are, born to be human in this world, we forget. We forget who we are supposed to be, who we were originally. So we are forgotten being, but to regain the original meaning to be human, that's the one spirituality help us to be awakened who we are.
So let me introduce the book. You wrote the book, A Sky of Infinite Blue, a Japanese immigrant search for home and self. And your book will be released September 6th of this year, 2022. So there you say something about grief that caught my attention. You write, I am still grieving, but I'm open to my feelings now, no longer intend on hiding them away. I have learned to appreciate my scars and wounds and to transform them into treasures. What really caught my attention here is when you talk about feeling, being open to feelings. And I noticed that most of us, including myself at times, try to escape, numb, and run from feelings when they are too strong and too powerful. What is your message when it comes to feeling and emotions? What's the best way to become open to them?
I think it depending on the individual's background, context, and also degree of impact from that event. Of course, sometimes we feel like we need to hide in a cave or whatever to not to feel that intensity. However, if we are accepting, we are imperfect, we are feeling all different emotions without judgment. Every emotion, like even grieving or sadness or loneliness or sometimes even anger, all of the emotions are equal. We judge, prejudging ourselves. This is not, or this is to hide, or this is not me, or whatever. But the value, their weight is all the same. If in front of light and love, I think every element has a more opportunity for us to be awakened and then absorb and then finding who we are even more.
What are some of the obstacles to healing that you clearly see? And also, talk to me for a moment about the connection between writing and healing.
Yes. I think the first, the obstacle of healing, we tend to see the obstacle somewhere outside of our body and mind. So it's something external element affects us. However, to me, obstacle is always within us. So how we see, how we feel, and how we want to proceed with that feeling. That's the thing always determine the next step. So healing may be, interfered often by our judgment of us, ourselves, and then have to be, we should be, and then so that's the feeling always delaying us to become more enlightened, and then more loving and more compassionate, not to ourselves, but also other people. It's all inclusive, I think.
How do you define enlightenment? I know you just hint now with some words, but I would love to hear a little bit more about your ideas of enlightenment.
I think enlightenment is touchable. Something very sacred, and then it is touchable by any moment, anybody. However, we have so much mundane, daily kind of a dust accumulated in our heart. So if we are, if we have a courage to be naked, and then being vulnerable, we have a more chance to be touched upon. So I think it's not far; it is within us, and then but it always being waiting for us to be there in a place, but we are the one escaping from it.
Right. And what is the reason for it? Fear?
I think, yes, fear is definitely the reason for us to not to be there, because it's like almost like a ghost imagination. It feels like it's like a monstrously, gets us or whatever. Like we don't know that unknown. I think we are not really open to the unknown, but the unknown is the one, the door for everything. So potentials, all of the feelings, love and light, everything. You have to push open the door. That unknown is the one always clinging on us to make us fear.
I see that you speak of judgment. It's so true. So judgment that comes with the idea of being right. So that's the part of us that wants to be right about something or know something. And then we're always holding on to knowledge and this idea that we can control something. And that makes a lot of sense, Kyomi, that we try very hard to know, right? And that gets in the way.
I'm sorry. I think we try to be too perfect.
Yeah. Yes. No at all.
I mean, the fear or judgment, because we have a kind of expectation about us and being perfect. But once we accept, it's not so perfect. Imperfect is okay. That judgment lowers. So, and the more opportunity to be enlightened.
Right. And that takes practice, doesn't it, Kyomi?
I think so.
There's one part of me that says, it takes this spiritual knowledge that life is the unknown, that we the real us, there's the real, let's say, the ultimate reality is perfect, infinite. It's, we don't have words to describe it. So one part of me says, oh yeah, I recognize that. And I know what that is. And there's another part of me that probably is connected to the ego, the conditioned, the mind, of course, and the body that says no to it all and then keeps grasping, attaching to everything around. So for that part of me that it's always attaching to something and causing suffering and pain, that part needs practice. That's what I see. And it's not in a sense of trying to control life, for things not to happen, bad things happen, but it's just to stay calm and in acceptance of everything that is. Does it make sense to you? I have been thinking about this lately.
I think we are perfect as we are, as an imperfect person. But if we try to omit the part of imperfection, or pretending to be something different, we lose the connection to be truthful. So I think if we are pretty open whenever we feel we are imperfect, and but just patting our shoulders, oh, I'm doing this again, but I am okay, I will be better. So that feeling makes a good practice.
So being open, being aware, and in a way, making that commitment, that subtle commitment to change, to be better.
Be present with whatever imperfection revealed to us.
Yeah. I love that. That's a beautiful practice, and I absolutely agree. So judgment is the big one. That makes so much sense to me. That judgment always gets in the way. Because we try to be perfect, and we try to be right, and we try to do everything in the way that's expected. And that puts too much pressure, and you're right, it closes the heart. At this time, what do you feel is the world's greatest need?
I think listening. I think listening is one of the very difficult, and one of the most difficult practice in human relationship, communication. The listening is not to agree with, but listening to be almost like be next to that person's heart. My heart is sitting next to that person's heart. That's how we should listen. Listening makes more makes us more compassionate. It doesn't mean to be agreeable, but exactly who he is or who she is, we can be next to each other together, togetherness.
What a beautiful message too, Kyomi. Thank you for saying that. Yes.
Thank you.
So going back to your book, the title is A Sky of Infinite Blue, a Japanese immigrant's search for home and self. Talk to me about the main inspiration and intention of writing your book.
Originally, when I started to write this book, I didn't think anything about becoming book. I started to write about 9 months after my husband passed away on Independence Day 2016. So, but it was a big emotional gush came out, outsurge came out of my mind. So it originally was not really meant to be a book. However, as I started to write, and then I felt I didn't express truth. I felt the emotion is not the truth. The truth is behind all of the event and then scene. So I just needed to dig down to the truth, and then only truth tells a story to the readers. So that's the time when I started to dig down the truth, what was my truth. That's the time I started to realize this may become a book. So it took for a while for me to even think about writing a memoir. But once I decided to do so, my focus was how I can express my own truth in the world to the reader. So I think my book was written to express my journey of healing, spiritual growth, and the love I had. I have. So all the episode were related to real people, particularly my late husband Patrick. However, all of the people, and then the expression I put my effort into as a expression of my love. I love them so much. So, some people may think, oh, I may be criticizing. No, I am not criticizing. I am very realistic what happened to us and then to them. But I love them so dearly, even through this writing practice, and that writing itself become my spiritual practice. I'm a Buddhist, and then as a part of the Buddhist principle, like diligence or perseverance. So all of the important principle of being a Buddhist, I put into my writing. So I have a very good hope. Some people may be touched by my story. And then I guess some people may be hearing my whisper to their heart. But also, I have a feeling my book is going to stimulate the readers to make them feeling like screaming sometimes. Mm-hmm. But that very screaming, that very scream is the one, the beginning of their awakening. That's I hope.
When it comes to truth, what universal truth have you discovered or uncovered throughout this journey that you've been through, the experiences you have been through, and also the writing your book?
Yes. So my book is, as you know, it's a memoir. It's about my life and my journey with associated people. It's definitely limited group of people. However, through this experience, I found profound love and then light we all share in this world. So I feel like beyond, this book, I have a big hope and the trusting of our potentials and love to everyone, including leaders and you, and then so anyone who touched.
I do want to ask you another, so a little bit off the topic of the book, I'll go back to it, but I noticed on your website you have some beautiful pictures there. Those pictures, I love the cats, the ocean, the lotus flower, of course. Did you take these pictures? Are you a photographer too?
I love taking the photos, and I have spent quite a time in the past, but depending on how much time I have in my professional life, and so on and off, I kept taking the photos. So, but I love photography, and then I love still life, from still life, and then also I love portrait, looking at people, and then like wrinkles or whatever.
The details. Yeah. You made me wonder about this connection between images and life itself. Because when I looked at your pictures, I was thinking about, like, it's a moment in time, like a tiny fraction of not even a second. And then you have an image of that. So I wonder if that's almost like a metaphor for life, that we try to capture the most beautiful or perhaps like truth representing moments in life and hold down to when we pass on.
Yes, I love to be present. I think the photography captures that moment. And then, of course, some sort of a retention, and then people can see it because of that. But I think the moment is really the intrigue me.
Yeah, this very moment, right? What is it? It's almost like question mark, right?
Yeah. And then the photography, the lighting is very important. And then the light, integrated or even making the object so different. So it's like our life.
Yeah. So light makes it possible, right, Kyomi? In a way, the life we know of and we perceive, it makes it possible. So is that your interpretation of light when you say love? I know most of us have some ideas, and hopefully very similar ideas about what love is. But when you say light, talk to me for a moment about that. I would love to know more your ideas of light.
I think light is, of course, part of love, but I think light to me is more spiritual meaning to me. I'm a Buddhist, and everybody has an inner goodness, innate goodness, and so that's a light. So everybody has a light within, and then it sparkles. And then if we find that light, and even seeing other people's light, that makes me feel my light become even brighter.
That's beautiful, the way you said it. Yeah. That resonates true. From your own experiences with healing, from grief especially, you engaged in writing, also chanting, spiritual disciplines such as meditation, reflections, contemplation. Would you suggest the same disciplines, the same practices, or it's something that we find ourselves? We need to uncover ourselves.
I think the writing, the healing power of writing is pretty well known, even the psychology and the psychotherapy field. I think writing is one of the tools, but I think to heal the wound or self, I think it might take a longer time or shorter time, depending on the individuals. But once we take some time, the healing is definitely possible. But to heal, you probably need to desire to heal. First step is a desire to heal. And how to heal is to be open to that possibility. I mean, healing is possible, but if you are closed, it doesn't happen. So, but if you are open to possibility, the tools are everywhere. I think being truthful to feeling like a grieving or sad or lonely or whatever, without hiding. But important part is not just only being emotional, but putting yourself from on the side or from the above to see yourself expressing that loneliness or sadness. So writing as a tool give that opportunity to separate ourselves even while we are expressing emotion.
That's another powerful insight. I love the way you say that. Truth is everywhere, so it's not hidden. It's right here. We just have to create enough distance, per se, so to be able to see, so we're not emotionally engaged with everything all the time. Yeah, I love that too, Kyomi, this message about emotions, right? That's very insightful and it makes a lot of sense. Although, we humans kind of pride ourselves that we are emotional beings, that we are feeling beings. But yeah, that's the spiritual side of it. We are able to see from almost unconditioned space, right?
When I am also kind of emotional trauma survivor. So from that experience, I learned when I was hiding, being like I was living in a dual life, putting armor protection myself, and then pretending to be a perfect, bright, good girl. But also I was hurt, and I felt shame and guilty why I am like this. So anyhow, if I am just staying in that victim, the state of a victim, it never ever change. Once you decided to desire to come out from that duality of a life, there might be some incidents, like force you to be out of that state. My case was my husband's death. Was a really big impact. Even I have to look into my childhood trauma. I thought it once it's healed, but it was deep inside of me. So anyhow, to be not to really separate yourself from the emotions, but to desire to be different from just being victims. But grieving could be the sense of a victim too. That we become like soaked into that victimized sense. But once you realize you are who you are, you can step out of that the imprisonment you are putting yourself.
Yeah, in your book, towards the end, you say, I know that my truth finding is not just freeing for me, it is also liberating Patrick from his past curses or karma and allowing him to live in peace in this spiritual world. I would love to understand this more, Kyomi.
I think, while we are living in human, we have to go through illness or death, or sometimes the death itself is impactfully painful. The Patrick death was like that. I was hoping peaceful and then something serene and then so beautiful. Of course, spiritual level and then soulful level, he was beautiful. He is always beautiful. However, as a humans, almost like a clothes, we are wearing some clothes. Sometimes we have to wear ugly clothes, and then ending up in ugly clothes, that not really beautiful silk fabric. So, but it is about our concept of death, but also I think everybody carries something influenced by the unknown spiritual world or whatever. How we live, maybe not just only controlled by us, but also the spiritual world, ancestral spirit, all of them together. But to be liberating all together, I needed to speak out the truth, because Patrick, toward the end particularly, he was very muted, kind of. He's originally very quiet, really open to speak out. He's not really loud person, but more private. So, but I loved him, that the private part too. However, to make him really, really in that beautiful soul, I wanted to not disclose him, but putting him in his own truth. That's how I felt.
It's always possible, even in the last moment, right, Kyomi, to reveal that truth about ourselves, to let it go, to surrender. There's a part in your book that you talk about that I think in Buddhism, what do you call it? Not the 4 types of suffering, but there's the 2 part of letting it go and also the attachment, like holding on to it and at the same time being afraid.
You mean middle way?
Yes, right. You talk about that in the beginning. I was supposed to write here and I think I didn't. Yeah, so this is something that it seems like we dance with these experiences throughout our lives. We try to let go of certain things but then we hold on to others. I wonder if there's a moment, like for you now, is that something that has happened where you have surrendered to life itself and you're not holding on or attaching to anything anymore as tightly?
I think that the middle way is a very important concept for us to even transcend between 2 opposing concepts, like death and life, and good or bad. The 2 opposing concepts usually expressed by the judgment, and the reflection of our own judgment, not other people, but our judgment. So whatever we think that 2 opposing polarized ideas, and if we are going back and forth in between, I think it's not in the present, really. If we want to stay in the present, I think we find something not the same level of opposition. I mean, it goes a little more awakened the state of mind. That's the one we need to grab for. I think the present state will be touched upon that awakening, being more mindful state.
Yeah, that's another idea that really resonates with me, especially when you speak of the opposites, that has to do with judgments, and that's so true. And then the present being the middle way, in a way, that's where we express our truth. That's it's unconditioned. We are not trying to be or to remember anything. We are just here now and being true in this moment. Although it is coming from memory, because language is memory, right? We have memorized to learn to speak English in all these words, but but there's something about it. There's something about that expression that is different. It's not the same.
No, so that's a powerful. I mean, like a powerful power of art or expression. Or, we all can feel connection.
Yeah, right. And the more true we are to ourselves, the more we tend to kind of be aware of that interconnectedness, right, with it all.
I think we share.
Yeah. Thank you so much again. And let's see, we're almost at the end. I do have a few more questions for you. Let's see the ending questions. But before that, would you like to add anything or read a passage in your book?
The passage if the passage it's going to be not really short. Is that okay? Or...
Yes, please.
So this is my first and the earliest experience of my spiritual awakening. And so after the meditative sitting, very early part of my pursuit, but I'm going to start. Since the sitting, I noticed some changes in my senses, as if I were now seeing people and the world through a pair of invisible glasses. Seeing, feeling, and putting my thought together felt different from before. I developed a pathway inside of me that allowed me to take others into consideration before accessing my own need. Though I tended toward altruism throughout my life, I felt a distinct difference in my experience of the world after my Mahayana succession. A couple of days after the succession, while I was taking a shower in the morning, I saw a clear image of my own answer to the question that had been raised at my July meditative training sitting, whether I should place my own hand into a vase if the Buddhas asked me to do so. Before I'd wonder about the contents of the vase, now in the shower, I saw them clearly. As I experienced this supreme clarity, my face was soaking wet, as much from my tears of awakening as it was from the shower. The vision put me into the further awakening. I felt I was staring at the image. Perhaps it was only in my imagination, but it didn't matter whether it was or not. The message was what mattered, and it was the most important and profound message I'd ever received from the Buddhas. What I saw in the vase was infinite space, where the concept of time and space means nothing. It didn't matter when and where it started or ended. There were uncountable stars, planets, and shooting stars, galaxies, and Milky Ways, and zillions of sparkling lights. The space was in the clearest, cleanest, coolest, and darkest black, with a bluish tint in its depths. When I looked carefully, I saw zillions of translucent biological capsules made of soft membranes suspended in this infinite space. Then I realized all these capsules were actually the stars looked upon from afar. They were radiating their own light, some brighter and crystal clear like diamonds, other with tints of various colors, and they are alive. I could hear their breathing and heartbeats in my ears. Within each capsule dwelled a Buddha, Bodhisattva, deity, and other creature. Each capsule was an incubator, nurturing its dweller until he or she was born. In one of the capsules, I saw the baby. That was me, and I heard her breathing. Most important of all was that all these capsules were interconnected. They were unconsciously conscious, awakened. They knew the truth of the universe. In this vision, I sensed three beings, me in a physical form, myself, the essence of my being, and the essence of the universe, the whole. This, I thought, must be the Dharma body. All three versions of me knew this version was the truth. All three share the same knowingness. The Reverend had asked me at my sitting if I had the courage to place my hand into the vase. In reality, though, it wasn't really a question. Rather, it was an invitation for me to take the journey to the absolutely unknown. Whatever journey I took, it would be filled with unknown wonders. The spiritual image that came to me in the shower depicted the Buddha's wisdom, loving kindness, and compassion, the Buddha's world. This was a very message of my vision. Don't be afraid. I felt sure that I would find the Buddhas in every person and event I encounter in my spiritual journey. They were all connected in the truth. Thank you.
Wow, thank you for reading that, Kyomi. It's, what is not to love about it? The truth, right? I mean, I know a lot of us don't want to hear that, but everything is connected. I love the way you write that too. Like, to me, it translates into being able to perceive the infinite everywhere, in everything. How amazing. Thank you so much again for doing what you do, the spiritual teachings that you're passing on to all of us, this legacy of spiritual wisdom and knowledge. I truly appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Valeria.
Wow, really beautiful. So my last question, I have some ending question. I'll ask you this one. What is another word for life?
I think life is beyond the time and then space. It's infinite, really.
Yeah.
Infinite space and beyond the time, but for us to experience and then love.
It's not as simple, right? If you want to find another word to describe, you can't use another word. It's just, right. It's simple and at the same time complex, right? So before we say goodbye for today, where can we find more information about you, your books, products, services, and future projects?
So my book is available right now, pre-order, but it's going to be available Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Book.org, everywhere, independent book. But also you can reach me through my website, KyomiO'Connor.com. And I love to hear from you by signing up my monthly newsletter. And usually I send monthly, but sometimes special issues. So
yeah, I'll have the link of your website on the podcast profile, and also your book. The book link to Amazon will be on your podcast profile too. Thank you so much again, Kyomi, for your presence here today, for everything that you represent and the beautiful message that you're passing on. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bye for now. Take care.
Thank you for listening. To learn more about Kyomi O'Connor and her work, please visit KyomiO'Connor.com.
To learn more about this podcast, please visit fitforjoy.org/podcast. Thank you again for listening, and bye for now.